In your career, you will quite often encounter a situation where your confidence about what is happening is at one of two extremes. The first situation is the why me situation. So someone may have suggested that you apply for a promotion or that you are nominated for an award, and the response or the feeling from your perspective is, oh, there's no way that would be remotely suitable. I'm not worthy of that award. I'm not ready for it. Look at the other amazing people who are up for that award. I have no chance. I shouldn't be even under consideration. The second situation, which is at the other opposite end of the confidence spectrum, and this would often come up in situations like going for promotion, is the why not me situation. So this is when you are really keen and really think you're ready for something or deserving of something, and then you go to progress it and you are very surprised at the apparent lack of support or enthusiasm, or perhaps people not thinking you're actually ready when you're really, really confident that you really deserve this and are ready to take that next step up. Both of these situations will occur reasonably regularly throughout your career, and in today's video I want to give a few pointers around how these situations arise, and not so much focusing on how you can resolve the situation, but how you can act appropriately in these situations. The key point I want to start with in this video is simply that you won't be able to solve all of these situations, at least not immediately. So there will be situations where, for example, you really think you're ready for something, and no matter what you do or what you say or how much evidence you bring, it's just not going to happen. And whether you are fully in the right and being wronged by someone else, or whether you perhaps don't have the big picture, is to some extent beside the point. It's how you act regardless of what that situation is that is particularly important. So let's take the first situation, the why me situation. So someone has suggested you be nominated for an award, and your immediate thoughts are, I don't deserve that award. I don't belong in that category of nominees. So first of all, you should thank the person. Usually these are not tokenistic. Usually the person who is suggesting that they nominate you for the award really thinks you have a shot and that you are deserving. And so take that as a compliment. Don't immediately brush it off, which a lot of people, I guess, naturally tend to do. Thank them for it and really sort of acknowledge that you're really grateful that they have thought that you might be worthy. The second thing to remember in these situations is, of course, you do not have the full picture. Often the person nominating you is someone who is quite a bit more senior and more experienced, perhaps more well-connected. Perhaps they've even been involved in judging this award in the past. And so they are quite likely to have a better perspective on whether you are viable and suitable for being nominated for the award than you do yourself. That said, the person nominating you does not always have as much time to think about whether you would be suitable. So what you can do, and this applies for both extremes of this confidence situation, is explain why you are perhaps a little bit cautious, explain the specific reasons, give some evidence, and then see what they say. A lot of the time they'll say, I understand all that, but I still think you should definitely give it a crack. And sometimes you'll be able to correct some misconceptions they may have, and you might decide that you might apply for that award later on. To give you an example of a common situation, some awards award a cumulative body of work or contributions, and some awards are really about one very specific, very pointy thing that you did. And different careers have different profiles that naturally lend themselves to one of these categories of award or the other. And so in discussing this with your would-be nominator, you may find out that they think that they will nominate you for one particular thing that you did, but really you would be better off in a category where it's really the cumulative body of contributions that you've made, which is the primary factor on which you are judged. One of the other things to remember is to think forward in time and think about people who have won awards like this, for example, in the category that you're being nominated. And if you talk to them, often they will still be surprised that they got the award. So that feeling of surprise is not necessarily inconsistent with you being a very worthy possible winner of the award. Now to move on to the second situation, which is the opposite end, the why not me situation, where you really feel that you are ready for something or deserve something and are a little bit taken aback by the fact that, or the perception that others around you, particularly those involved in the process, are perhaps not as sure that you are ready. A typical example where this comes up very frequently, and I know I experienced this during my career, is in the academic promotion process. And the key thing to remember here is you should not force the situation to the point where there's no going back. And so, for example, things like outright threats are basically a complete no-go. Once you start threatening, if you don't promote me, I'm going to leave and do this or that, you're almost at the point of no return. There are more productive, constructive ways to have these conversations. You do not want to go to the nuclear option in just about all cases. Again, the best thing you can do here is in interacting with these people who are perhaps involved in supporting or not necessarily putting you forward in these situations, and explain that you are a little bit surprised. Try and do this as unemotively as possible, although it is always difficult. Explain the sort of reasons why you thought you were ready, and try and have a constructive conversation where if they bring up any shortcomings or holes or potential criticisms, you're able to sort of, as objectively as possible, and I know this is very, very hard, take those on board, perhaps not respond right in the moment, especially if you feel a bit emotional about it, but take them away, have a little bit of a think about it, and sort of take your time to really reason your way through what they are saying. Another common situation here that can come up is that there's basically some overarching reason why an individual or a group feel you are not ready for something. But when you go through and discuss individual details that underlie that decision, it feels like none of those individual details by themselves are remotely enough of a justification for the decision that they're making. But the thing to remember here is that it's really the total in the aggregate of all of these things put together. Any one point by itself is often not enough to really sway the decision either way, but it is the accumulation of a number of these factors when considered jointly together that is leading to the decision. The key point for both the why me and also the why not me situations is simply that you should try and explain why you feel a certain way about the situation in both of these extremes. And remember that you will not always be able to turn around the situation right then and there. And so if you go ahead and explain the situation, what your considerations were, hear what their considerations were, you may not necessarily agree with their considerations, but at least there will be minimal chance of misconceptions around why the decision was made. What is important in all of these situations is that you try as much as possible to act in a professional and civil manner, because once you descend into making threats, and perhaps even shouting matches, which I've heard of, you are going nowhere fast. It's a really bad situation that you want to avoid at all costs. That responsibility is, of course, partly on the people you're talking with. It's not all on you, but nevertheless, it's something to try and stay away from. This is one of those situations too where I don't think these situations ever stop occurring. So I'm over 2 decades into my career. In certain areas of my career, I'm highly experienced and have a lot of experience with the sort of things where these confidence extremes come up. And these continue to come up again, both the why me and the why not me situations. And so although I'm learning from my experiences, you will continue most likely to face these situations where there is a mismatch between your confidence about a situation and the reality, or at least the reality is seen by the people you're talking with. And so it's something that it's good to become good at dealing with. It's probably not going to go away completely in your career, but you can become more and more effective and perhaps a little bit more seasoned in how you deal with it each time it does come up.